What if the Kazan Cathedral, the main Orthodox church of Nevsky Prospect, was never actually built as a church, but was merely adapted from an existing, already completed structure? Why do its ornamentations feature incongruous symbols? Why does the colonnade not align with the official history? And why does the underground part seem to operate under its own, very ancient rules? Who and for what purpose transformed this place into a showcase of correct faith, erasing traces of another civilization, other cults, and different masters? And why are there so many lost blueprints, Masonic names, and strange coincidences in this story? Details they will never tell you on a guided tour. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new investigations. Ahead, insights that will make you see familiar temples in a new light. No other cathedral in St. Petersburg raises so many questions as the Kazan. Its layout, reminiscent of an elongated Catholic cross, already casts doubt on traditional explanations and sparks bewilderment. Why is an Orthodox church designed with obvious Western symbolism? The facade is decorated with mysterious signs, among which the all-seeing eye stands out, a symbol difficult to reconcile with the official version of history. Sources suggest that these symbols could have held not only religious meaning, but also belonged to secret societies like the Freemasons. Perhaps they were meant to convey something deeper, hidden from the eyes of ordinary people. But is that really what we see? According to one alternative theory, the Kazan Cathedral is merely the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies a much older and more mysterious history. Some researchers refer to this enigmatic civilization as Tartary, a powerful empire whose traces seem scattered across Russia and neighboring territories. This hypothesis, gradually gaining supporters, attempts to explain many oddities and inconsistencies of the cathedral with the official narrative. You begin to realize, behind the familiar walls of Kazan lie mysteries rarely brought to light. Want to look beneath the surface of these secrets? Then open your eyes wide, because we are about to delve into a history they not only ignore on TV, but even try to forget. Every element of this cathedral seems to hold a secret. Vanished bas-reliefs, mysterious symbols on the facade, strange materials in the columns unlike any known stone. The masters who built it in the distant past appeared to conceal their true craftsmanship, while the powerful elites carefully hid the truth about who really constructed this masterpiece. In this investigation, we will reveal what might save you from blindly following official versions. Ask yourself, how can a church built in the early 19th century hide so many secrets? What is the connection between the tomb of Kutuzov inside, and why does its symbolism appear so extraordinarily mystical? What mysterious signs, seemingly derived from ancient knowledge, are hidden in every corner and crevice? All of this prompts us to see the Kazan Cathedral differently, raising the question, could it be part of a much larger enigma? Is it only revealed to those willing to dig deeper? It is precisely in this story, hidden beyond the official narratives, that Tartary finds its place. A civilization our ancestors knew well, yet one that is deliberately being erased from collective memory. Traces of its legacy can be found carved in stone, embedded in symbols, woven into architecture that mainstream science dismisses as mere coincidence or forgotten traditions. We venture into places most are afraid to look. Only an open mind and a willingness to question accepted truths can bring us closer to unraveling one of the greatest historical enigmas. The Kazan Cathedral is not just a building. It is a portal to a world where secrets dwell, where the past holds the key to understanding today. Keep watching, and you will uncover a truth more astonishing than you can imagine. On the facade of the Kazan Cathedral, as if on the page of an ancient manuscript, unfolds a drama that official history proponents are unwilling to hear. The all-seeing eye, clearly not belonging to the Orthodox tradition, scans St. Petersburg with a piercing gaze, as if seeking lost meanings and archival secrets. Archaeologists seeking truth here find only fragments of legends, yet no one dares to speak aloud about the role these symbols play in the fate of the cathedral. Sometimes, it seems someone was determined that this very spot would host a temple where every detail is not only aesthetic, but also a code. Look at the vanished bas-reliefs. In earlier times, figures were carved into the stone, their meanings debated across generations. And now they are gone, erased not by accident, but intentionally, to silence the cathedral's true voice. As if someone sought to hide evidence of a different era, of another authority. Traces are smudged, archives purged. Now they are studied only through old photographs, like detectives hunting for clues. Does it surprise you that the cathedral's facade boldly displays not only banners, but also symbols associated with secret societies and ancient civilizations? The Masonic all-seeing eye, the sun, solar motifs, highly geometric patterns, all echo the ornaments found on artifacts of Tartary. The masters of the past used recurring symbols, which can be traced from the Urals to the Atlantic. The question is not only religious, we are looking at remnants of craft shrouded in mystery. Official sources explain such details as influences from the West, fashion, or coincidence. But if you peel away the mask of conventional explanations, you see much more. Each bas-relief is a potential message, encoded for future generations. One can only imagine what the cathedral's walls looked like before these details were erased. Faded photographs from the late 19th century reveal figures that no longer adorn the walls. Winged lions, unknown birds, images that point to mythology and sacred art of Tartary, far more than to church iconography. Coincidence? Or a challenge to logic, passed down through the ages? The geometry of the facade is yet another mystery. The symbols of the cathedral echo the mathematical patterns once used in the megaliths of ancient cultures. Squares, 8-pointed stars, intersecting circles. It's as if the masters possessed knowledge of a lost discipline, safeguarding the fundamental code of a civilization that stood here long before the Romanovs and their devastating reforms. Only in Tartary, according to alternative chronicles, could such principles be employed, principles reflected in the architecture of the Kazan Cathedral. Let's move away from dry lists of facts. Let the facts speak for themselves. The vanished bas-reliefs are not a loss of art, but the result of a battle for memory. The symbolism of the facade is not merely aesthetics, but an encrypted language of ancient architects. The secret societies of Freemasons are merely followers, leaving their autographs on an already completed artifact. Kazan Cathedral gazes upon the city with stone eyes, silent but remembering. Here, the boundaries between Orthodox Russia and the unknown Tartary blur. Much intertwines, rewrites, and masks itself. 4 centuries of myths have not fully drowned out the whisper of ancient stone. The cathedral's facade is like an archival sheet waiting to be deciphered by yet another generation. Who was the true builder? What knowledge did the vanished bas-reliefs hold? And do we have the courage to face these secrets? In every line and pattern, an attempt to recall the forgotten, to see what is hidden beneath layers of historical interpretation. Kazan Cathedral remains silent, but its facade speaks for it. All that remains is to observe carefully, analyze, and not believe in coincidences. Only thus can we wrest the secret from the stone and approach the revelation that all true researchers both fear and desire to uncover. Inside Kazan Cathedral, everything resembles a scene from a real investigation, where behind each facade and column lies a new mystery. At first glance, it seems simple. The cathedral is built from Kutuzov stone, the decoration is standard, and the sculptures and carvings reflect the canon of the era. But if you walk along the walls, pay attention to the details. Cracks in the granite columns, traces of plaster, and in some places, obvious red brick, as if shouting that before us is not only stone grandeur, but also the admixture of a humbler building material. One of the central questions, what happened to the bas-reliefs in the niches of the main entrance? Old lithographs show they once existed, But now they are gone, replaced by empty spaces or icons that sharply differ in size. Why did the sculptures disappear? What was the purpose of such a cleaning of elements that are not even mentioned in eyewitness descriptions? Coincidentally, similar disappearances occurred in other famous temples, as if someone deliberately erased traces from another era. But let's get to the point. What materials were used in the finishing? The interior columns are made of Finnish granite. The external ones are faced with stone, and inside, almost everything is covered with plaster imitating marble. Here, skilled craftsmen worked. Samson Sukhanov, the legendary stonemason, appearing out of nowhere and vanishing into obscurity. His biography, like the history of the columns themselves, is shrouded in shadow, and finding the true details is nearly impossible. The renowned architect Voronihin, an autodidact serf who, according to legend, was entrusted with the project of the century, executed his work intuitively, without drawings or calculations, as if inheriting knowledge from some forgotten school. Here, the investigation involves more than just construction materials. On the interior frescoes and iconostases, solar symbols are constantly encountered. Rays, triangles, an eye surrounded by animals, an angel, an eagle, a bull, and a lion. These are not only symbols of Freemasons or early Christians, but also echoes of cults characteristic of Tartary, whose tetramorph became a unique imprint of civilization. Mismatched signatures on icons, discrepancies with official canons, all this transforms the cathedral into an archive of mysteries. The tomb of Kutuzov, military trophies displayed, French banners, all add layers to the historical context. The altar's design, materials, details of the timbres, unexpected solutions in frescoes and sculptures suggest that the cathedral was built not according to the norms of its time. Even the flooring and choice of marble raise questions. Why so many rare varieties? Where did they source the stonemasons? What is the true story behind the vanished bas-reliefs? Who was responsible for cleaning the decorations in the 19th century? Every detail is not just an artifact, but a clue waiting to be deciphered. The masters who created them are gone, their secrets have dissolved, and modern research often hits a wall of silence. Yet, the cathedral captivates visitors with an atmosphere of investigation, where each observation becomes part of a larger puzzle. Facts don't always align, testimonies are blurred, and the true meaning of the details remains hidden from outsiders. To entertain the idea that a civilization possessing knowledge beyond today's reach once operated here, knowledge that even leading engineers and architects lack, would mean rethinking all conventional versions of history. The Kazan Cathedral is not only a monument of its era, but also a battleground for truth, where a new generation of researchers strives to unearth carefully buried clues. Every analysis, every photo of a column, every document capable of shedding light not only on the work of the masters, but also on Tartary's mysterious role in Petersburg's history, is crucial. Each centimeter of the Kazan Cathedral is a level of investigation in itself. Now, step inside. Look at the columns. Official guides will tell you, Finnish granite, the best craftsman, the pride of the era. But look closer, and all the pompous words fall apart. Some columns show cracks, chips, and in places, the same plaster used under the stone, which was employed solely to mask cheap materials. Sometimes, beneath the granite, there's obvious red brick. It feels as if the builders tried to hide from future generations what doesn't fit into any architectural canon. Let's figure it out. Finnish granite was transported on barges from afar, and working with it took months. But the construction dates, supply records, the records in the archives do not match. The number of columns does not align with the official plans. Either some parts have disappeared or they were never installed at all. Relying on existing drawings leads to paradoxes. Some structural solutions are simply impossible for the era and level of technology development. Moving further, towards the floor. Here, marble from Italy, rare red jasper from Siberia, gray slabs from the Urals, and again, masses of materials whose origins are tangled in mystery. According to 19th century schematics, it's clear. Some stones were cut from already existing structures, others are impossible to trace at all. At the heart of the intrigue are the paintings and ornaments on the walls. Solar motifs, tetramorphs, angel, lion, bull, eagle. All are integrated into the interior not as mere decoration, but as elements of a code. There's no overload. Each symbol is placed with utmost precision, no superfluous details. Yet when comparing the style to early images of Tartary, the resemblance is almost complete. Even the shape of the sun's rays matches the ornaments found on artifacts in Ural and Siberian complexes. The Kutuzov tomb, another enigma within an enigma. Why establish a true monument to the general in a church building? Why are French trophies and banners standing nearby, like in a museum? And most importantly, the tombstone again bears solar symbolism, a sign of triumph, but not of Orthodox Christianity, more like a mark of other rituals. Let's examine another trick, the vanished bas-reliefs. As early as the beginning of the 20th century, researchers noted sculptural compositions on the walls, which are now absent from both restoration reports and museum descriptions. Lithographs confirm they were there. Who and why removed them? Why is there no mention of motives for their disappearance? Everything is too clean, no signs of dismantling, like the pieces evaporated without a trace. As if a team worked to erase any references to the old layers of history. And don't forget architect Voronikin. The official version is that he was a serf genius, a self-taught master. But then, how did he gain access to the fundamental knowledge of ancient crafts, which only heirs of specific traditions could possess? His biography is built on fragments, first a student, then suddenly entrusted with a monumental order, connections to Count Stroganov, a well-known patron of the Freemasons. The biographies of masters follow the same pattern. They appear out of nowhere, vanish after a decade, then accidentally resurface in other countries. A true investigation must cover not only construction details, but also human stories. Critical points. Excavations beneath the cathedral revealed fragments of masonry that do not match the founding date. The depth, technique, and materials are closer to those of ancient Tartarian settlements than to the original plans of St. Petersburg. The stone is clearly non-local, and the laying method is unique for the entire city. Archives mention old foundations, but no reports of serious archaeological excavations have ever been made. Officialdom avoids details, though searches continue to this day. So, every element, every crack and chip, each is a key to understanding what, who, and why built the cathedral. A mosaic of contradictions, masked methods, vanished details, and stone secrets. All of this is not merely a fashion statement, but a carefully woven architectural intrigue that compels us to suspect. Traces have been left here not only by a master of the 19th century, but perhaps by representatives of a much more ancient civilization. The Kazan Cathedral demands new questions, and if we look at the details through the lens of Tartarian researchers, at its foundations, decor, and plans, the same anomalies surface. Anomalies that cannot be explained by simple theories of architectural evolution. The next clue is the figure of architect Voronikin and his circle. On the surface lies the familiar legend, a talented serf, a magical leap from apprentice to creator of St. Petersburg's main cathedral. But when you delve into the details, his biography begins to fall apart. Like any hero of official history, his path is built on failures and strange coincidences. Suddenly receiving a higher education without any documented proof, unexpectedly becoming the favorite of Count Stroganov, a well-known Freemason, and immersing himself fully in a project that no one else dared to undertake. Voronikin never studied classical architecture formally, yet his work astonished even the capital's academicians. The Chinese silence of the archives, the extremely sparse records of his early years, these all cast doubt. Did he truly have access to technologies lost to most architects of his time? Voronikin is credited with a spiritual leap, a self-taught genius with a master's gene. A convenient legend for naive listeners, but for us, a disturbing signal. Working with scales that modern stonemasons could not match, he seemed to act as if guided by the legacy of vanished schools or, an alternative theory, had access to knowledge that could only reach Petersburg through a mysterious civilization. The commission for the Kazan Cathedral came from the elite embedded within a Masonic hierarchy. Church canons are easily intertwined with cult symbols here. Sukhanov oversaw the project as if guarding secret lines and mystical patterns, leaving his marks everywhere, from the facade design to the interior chapels. Even the financing system traces back to banking structures that were just emerging among European elites at the time. Funds for construction flowed through closed contractors, none of which are modern enterprises, but rather a host of surnames that disappeared without a trace. Builders and artisans appeared on site like ghosts. They arrived from villages with mysterious surnames, worked for several years, and then vanished, leaving no personal archives or descendants. Official documents record them only superficially, without biographies, passports, or details. One of the central masons, the stonecutter Sukhanov, is recorded years before the construction as having entered a monastery, only to reappear on the site as if between two worlds. Who are they? Why could no one replicate their techniques decades later? Any attempt to verify their contribution to the construction leads to fantastic results. Architectural solutions only on sites clearly connected to mysterious functions. Energy lines, hidden passages, stone labyrinths, can copies be made. Many diagrams replicate elements familiar from excavations in the Urals and the Volga region. Yet the official story insists, everything was invented anew, from a blank sheet. Only archival finds and photographic materials hint otherwise. In reality, specialists working on the Kazan Cathedral might have belonged to an architectural tradition rooted in Tartary times, when structures served not only ritual purposes, but also concealed architectural tasks. On the cathedral's facades, it's easy to find not only Masonic symbolism, but also elements of ancient geometry, which appeared in Petersburg long before academic schools took shape. Whenever the topic of the Kazan project arises, historians shy away from direct answers. Instead of revealing the true meaning hidden in archives, an endless cycle of references, missing original drawings, vanished diaries, they evade. It becomes clear that before us stands not just an autodidact genius, but a figure cloaking another reality, which can best be described as traces of a vanished civilization. It might seem that everything points to coincidence, but there are too many overlaps. Clients, church and Masonic authorities, disappeared engineers, opaque financial flows, scandalous stories of lost artifacts. Ultimately, Voronikin becomes a key point of investigation, a boundary between the familiar and the alternative explanation. The depth of his biography, secret connections, architectural uniqueness, each element leads us to a thought. The cathedral was built according to foreign standards, using forgotten knowledge. Here, at the stage of analyzing the architect's identity and his ties to the elites, the main question surfaces. Could it have been possible to construct the Kazan Cathedral without direct access to the legacy of an ancient civilization? The very one that subtly weaves through every line, leaving its mark in every stone, every curve, every unknown worker's name? Thus, the investigation extends beyond the obvious, introducing new criteria for searching and suggesting. The cathedral is merely a dash, while the real secret lies hidden among the names of those who shaped the city's fate in that era. The most mysterious scene in the Kazan Cathedral drama is the Kazan icon of the Mother of God and its journey through history, tangled in paradoxes and ambiguities. At first glance, it seems, here it is, the spiritual heart, the legendary image around which myths, the familiar historical narrative, and the official version are built. Religion, politics, wars, salvation, all revolve around this relic. But the longer you scrutinize the details, the more questions arise. Why does the icon not occupy a central position in the interior? Why is the cathedral's main space not dedicated to it, but instead to the all-seeing eye and stone symbols? Why, in archival plans of iconography, does the Kazan image appear and then vanish, like oil in sand, surfacing where needed and instantly dissolving as soon as someone begins to investigate. The official version claims that the miraculous relic arrived in Kazan, traveled all the way to Petersburg, that almost elevate it to the status of the era's central philosophical hub. But what do we see in reality? In church manuscripts, the exact origin of the icon is scarcely mentioned, and the story itself takes on the aura of a mystery. The earliest descriptions of ancient temples can confound even the most seasoned researcher. Somewhere in 19th century lithographs, the original flashes by, differing in ornamentation, with an incorrect palette of colors, and entirely different techniques of depiction. The ornament surrounding the face is unusual, clearly borrowed not from canonical script, but from traditions more characteristic of Tartary than of the Orthodox Cathedral of St. Petersburg. During the transport of the relic from Kazan to the capital, a series of astonishing coincidences surfaced. The ceremonies of meeting and veneration were carried out on such a grand scale, with so many participants, that it resembled not a church ritual, but a parade of secret societies. Folk memories repeatedly note that after the appearance of the icon, the ground around the cathedral changed, as if it had been specially prepared for new cultural rituals that bore no relation to the canonical church traditions. Even the shape of the reliquary and the covering cloth point to influences from crafts unfamiliar to Orthodox art, more typical of Northern, Eastern, or even purely Tartar traditions. The red fragment of velvet, the carved edging, the inlays of stones, all this visual opulence directly contradicted the customs of that time and could be linked to symbolism and secret codes of vanished civilizations, whose traces researchers continue to seek to this day. The icon is embedded in the cathedral not so much as a center of spiritual life, but as an element of a mysterious cult. Some scholars outright assert that the introduction of this new relic gave the Church a chance to mask the imprints of a more recent, non-canonical religion, to carry out a true rebranding of the city's spiritual identity, and simultaneously block access to the remnants of Tartary's knowledge. The symbolism around the icon, rays, trefoils, carved fragments, all uniquely echoes elements found on the ruins of ancient cities. Beneath layers of paint, restorers uncovered fragments created with a technique now considered a complete mystery. Antique, quite expensive, and evidently not Russian in origin. A detailed study of the cult's implementation reveals that it was not merely a religious act, but a complex political ritual aimed at consolidating elite control over the new architectural marvel of St. Petersburg. The cult of the Kazan icon is both a key to the cathedral's secrets and a tool through which authorities replaced old meanings with modern ones. Miracles and salvation images gradually overshadowed the details of the relic's origin. Tales were rewritten, legends edited, and the real traces pointing to an ancient pre-church history were meticulously erased from all registers and descriptions. Even contemporary documents and registries point to listeners who were dictated a new version of the myth. In the altar zone, there are details that, at first glance, unrelated to the overall image, craft fragments of metal outlined with solar motifs, symbols of the four elements, allegories of ancient cults. No overload, everything is strictly in its place. But any expert will admit, such a combination cannot be explained solely by fashion or Western influence. Beneath layers of paint, one finds inserts of altar emblems, unique to northern Eurasia, but typical of monuments associated with mysterious vanished civilizations, analogues of which are called Tartary. Finally, a chain of traces leads to museum basements. There, fragments of plaster are stored, revealing a fundamentally different chemical analysis. Minerals found not in European or Russian developments, but in ancient Ural and Siberian mines, known in legends as centers of Great Tartary. Comparing these with stone decorations of the cathedral leads to the same series of matches, a truly detective route, where the icon becomes not just a symbol of Christian faith, but a code linking the old and new histories of this place. The Kazan Cathedral and the Kazan icon are not merely spiritual centers, but genuine archival puzzles, where every pattern, every layer, every legend uncovers a new strata. This chapter of investigation transforms the usual view of the relic into a heated clash between memory, power, and mystery, which we must unravel from historian to reach the true meaning. The real answer: where does the legend end and knowledge begin? Who was the true guardian, and who was the master of deception? All this must be decided by peering not only into archives and manuscripts, but also into the deepest cracks of the cathedral itself. Have you noticed how quickly the familiar sense of Petersburg is lost inside the Kazan Cathedral? As if stepping from the 21st century directly into another era, yet even here, nothing matches. The visitor is told this temple is just another brick in the city's Orthodox symphony, but in every element, there's a needle, carefully hidden by official history beneath a cloth. The most striking thing, the faces of saints and heroes decorating the altar and walls, look as if taken from a foreign civilization. Look closer, and it's not only ancient Slavic features. There are Asian lines, something distinctly Mongolian, and mysterious symbols on the ornaments that hint at themes unrelated to Christianity. Who painted these faces, and why do they seem alien? Dig deeper, and you encounter frescoes with solar motifs, where angels are constructed according to the tetramorph scheme: lion, ox, eagle, human. Why would a 19th century artist suddenly use archetypes that recur on Tartarian megaliths, on stone slabs in Siberia, where even official religion never set foot? Coincidence? Cover-up? Or did the patron try to embed hidden meaning without revealing themselves outright? Everything is arranged so that there are no direct overlaps with Orthodox canons, but anyone aware of alternative theories will understand. Here, a beacon is left for their own. Old plans of the cathedral, only preserved on yellowed pages. They reveal a completely different system of figure placement. The central characters are not the ones seen in modern icons. Archives flicker with images of mysterious guards at the entrance, and near the altar, not only the Virgin Mary, but also unknown saints holding objects that resemble relics from Eurasian shamanic traditions. Legends circulate about stone masks and bas-reliefs, as if they were carved not by professionals, but by semi-literate craftsmen working without sketches. But then, why do the details not repeat in other churches? And why do the craftsmen vanish from biographies without a trace? Each observer here harbors their own paranoia. Why do the icons not match in style? Why are the stories of the saints fragmented, like chopped meat, instead of the usual naive painting? Usually, the church explains everything with fashion, Western influence, but when it comes to specific symbols, absolute silence. No one wants to answer direct questions. Why are there signs on the walls matching the maps of the megalithic complexes of Tartary? Why do the faces of saints look north and east, not toward the altar? Where did the tradition of stone carving come from, especially since it wasn't used in Russia until the construction of Kazan? The most lively detail is the fragments of ancient frescoes found in the basements, decorated with patterns only seen on objects from forbidden archaeology. These ornaments are not only Slavic, but also Turkic, Finno-Ugric, Siberian, all executed at the highest level, as if by members of a closed school. Who are these people? Why can no one replicate their work today? Old city archives scream. Some craftsmen were not local. Some are completely unidentified. Surnames disappear, and clients are portrayed as too secretive and influential. Looking at all this, there's no doubt that the cathedral was built not only according to church commandments, but also with the intent to preserve a message for those seeking the truth between the lines. Even the cathedral's floors look like a map. Fragments of jasper, granite, dark marble slabs form patterns that mirror the lines of ancient geoglyphs. Comparing with laboratory analyses, the chemical composition of the materials is clearly not Petersburg-based. And again, a paradox. The strangest fragments indicate that part of the stone was imported from places associated with legends of Tartary, a powerful civilization that official history dismisses as a myth. Getting to the core means seeing every detail in a new light and pushing it to the maximum. Maps, archival plans, details of construction, chemical analysis of materials, techniques of painting, all hint at a game of concealment. As soon as you decipher one find, the story becomes even more tangled. Thus, Kazan Cathedral transforms from a passive city decoration into a nerve center of alternative investigation. Here, every meter, every crack in the wall, every unfamiliar face is an open invitation for those seeking answers to the question, who really was the builder? You can walk through the museum quickly, look at the exhibits, and forget. Can you stay overnight, take notes, cross-reference, argue? And then you'll begin to distinguish not only secret symbols, but also the entire system of signs left by those whom the Church and the Academy of Sciences preferred to silence? The main thing is not to fall asleep in the middle of the investigation. As soon as boredom sets in, you lose the chance to see the true story. The Kazan Cathedral is not about the usual church. It's a place where a centuries-old intrigue is only just beginning. So, what's the bottom line? We're not just looking at a cathedral, but at a territory that official narratives carefully avoid. We proceed cautiously through the basements. During renovation works, fragments of old masonry were discovered. Rubble stone, clearly not from the 19th century, with inclusions of unknown mortar, so peculiar that no laboratory analysis could determine its composition. Restoration reports mention fragments unlike any others, with microscopic ceramic seals embedded in the rock, found only in ancient Ural settlements. We go deeper. In some areas beneath the cathedral, passages have been uncovered leading into spaces where the masonry details resemble descriptions of Central Asian megaliths. Repeatedly, city legends have whispered, above Kutuzov's tomb, not just a crypt, but an entrance to ancient catacombs. Historians working on the foundation analysis privately admitted, the depth, the way the wall slabs are joined, the secret passages from one hall to another, all of this doesn't fit any traditional construction scheme. Those studying connections to Tartary immediately noted, the type of joints, the shape of underground galleries, even the profiles of ventilation shafts, all mimic ancient technology, yet the material is clearly alien to Petersburg stone. Comparing the architecture of the above-ground structure and the underground levels reveals more similarities than between the Romanovs and all the sensational discoveries of their time. Photographic evidence shows strange debris, fragments of decoration, remains of columns with imprints of ritual symbols. In some places, carvings on the walls resemble runic codes, which can only be found on artifacts from territories where, officially, no states ever existed. No chronicler mentions these details, but workers and engineers with generational memory were surprised. We saw similar slabs in the mountains when we built houses in Siberia as kids. Part of the old paper archives disappeared in the 20th century, and no one bothered to question the military engineers who cleared the cathedral zones after the revolution about their findings. Only oral legends remain. In the basement, they found a Masonic cross. Nearby, ceramics with marks resembling sketches of Tartarian coins. The wildest part? Sealed passages leading inward were discovered, but at the orders of the authorities, all exits were blocked after discovery. Why such haste? Who needed to hide these routes? Why is no one revealing the basement schematics to new publicists today? Meanwhile, on the upper levels of the cathedral, new discoveries continue to emerge. When restorers replace the plaster, they record layers of varying quality, as if the cathedral had been rebuilt multiple times, each renovation not only altering decorative elements, but also reshaping the fundamental geometry of the space. Some sections appear as crude attempts to overwrite the old layout with more orthodox forms. Yet even beneath the paint layers, the sketches reveal motifs that cannot be found in any church manual. Masonic symbols, solar signs, anomalous patterns, all part of a massive, officially uninterpreted code. Analyzing contracts and personal family archives uncovers only one certainty. The cathedral was built not solely as a sacred site, but also as a laboratory, where every detail is obsessively guarded from prying eyes. Where have the true communication schemes gone? Why are the underground routes still only partially documented officially? Whose names appear among the authors of key decisions, when most of their biographies are simply erased from city records? As the investigation deepens, a new question emerges. The cathedral is not just a mystery. It's a key to the history of civilization, one that could be unraveled over decades, yet each new step only amplifies the noise and paranoia among those accustomed to thinking through official channels. The Kazan Cathedral is a provocateur, a beacon, a stone puzzle that gathers hundreds of hints into one indecipherable phrase. We don't know who was here before, but the traces remain, and they scream Tartary. I do not claim to hold the ultimate truth. Everything you hear here is not an attempt to impose a personal viewpoint, but a straightforward investigation, laid out before you, without exaggeration or speculation. Each of you is free to decide which conclusions to trust, which questions to pursue further. I am merely a guide through a world of facts, legends, discoveries, and contradictions. Never stop questioning, rethinking, viewing familiar things from a new perspective. Perhaps one day, your attention or skepticism will help shed light on mysteries guarded by stones, archives, and hidden routes of our cities for centuries. To seek meaning solely through official sources is to deprive oneself of true excitement and depth of exploration. An open mind and a passion for discovery are the best allies for anyone aiming to get to the bottom of things. Subscribe, don't forget to click the bell so you won't miss new investigations. Many riddles and revelations lie ahead. We will continue to seek clues, ask uncomfortable questions, and explore what official science tends to overlook. Because the truth is always nearby, only need to want to see it.